Hi, Natalie. I hope you can hear me and see me.
Yes, hi.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm great, thanks.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for joining me and being right on time.
Yes, I thought it was early, but no, I just realized my time.
Nice. Okay, so I see a lot of red in your picture, in your hair, your couch.
Everything matches.
Yeah, it's a good match, definitely. What brings you to the webinar today?
I was on the new life book or the Mind Valley Connections app, and I saw it listed as one of the events and sounded interesting. So I just registered today at the last minute and thought I'd check it out.
Well, you would be pleasantly surprised. I hope you stay by the end and stick around to find a lot of interesting insights. There's definitely a talk that's let's put it this way, it's for those with acquired taste, because accelerating one's growth is it's absolutely possible, but it's not very convenient. Let's put it this way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to be comfortable with discomfort.
Exactly. All right, we have somebody else joining us. Hi, Archana. I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. But please feel free to say hi, introduce yourself, and tell us what brought you today to the webinar. While we're waiting for others to join us, because we're gonna probably have conversation between us and wait for another 15 minutes for others to join us.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually some people are running late. Where do you call home, Natalie?
I'm in Canada.
Canada, okay. And how has been the summer with all the COVID?
Well, we've been in lockdown. I've been working from home for about 5 months now. But the summer's been really nice, so I've been able to enjoy a lot of time outside. And I bought a new bike about 2 months ago, so I've been going out on bike rides. So I've been doing okay during COVID. I think I'm doing much better than a lot of other people.
That's great to hear. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, I love biking myself. I was just recently out on a bike pad out here. I'm out in Santa Monica, California.
Oh, nice.
Out on the bike pad by the beach, which is something I enjoy a lot.
Yeah.
Because I find myself spending too much time at home too, working from home and doing all the things and just being kind of like focused and concentrated on my work. This has actually been what I've been really focused on in the last, it's 5 months, going to 6 months now, since the whole process with the pandemic began.
Mm-hmm.
Just very deep and focused on the work I have going on, and so many projects that I want to see come into fruition. So there's always something, the moment you think you feel you did everything, all of a sudden there's something more.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always this process of being able to balance all the doing with the being is a very important place or skill to develop.
Yeah, and being realistic and what you can accomplish, right?
Yeah, I would say fuck being realistic. Be extremely unrealistic, because if you being realistic, you're selling yourself short. You always have to shoot for the moon in order to end at least among the stars.
Right,
so never be realistic. Never be realistic. Realistic doesn't help.
Mm-hmm.
It's better than being pessimistic, but maybe sometimes you can confuse these two, right? So I would definitely say be completely unrealistic. And I would say with your expectations, but with the standards you set for yourself, because you will always default to your standards that you are okay with. And you never know what you can be possible or what's possible once what seems impossible becomes a possibility.
Right.
So that's my take on realism.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And what are you excited nowadays about besides joining the webinar and looking for ways to further yourself and accelerate your growth?
Well, I've been feeling very burnt out. I just started a new job just under a year ago, and before that, I was feeling very burnt out, and so I was, having a lot of health issues, not serious health issues, but just enough that I never had any energy and didn't have a lot of focus. And the one thing the pandemic has allowed for me to do is just recover my health. And so for the first time in a really long time, I have energy. I'm excited about things. I have all these ideas. So it shows to me that I'm in a really good place right now. And so one of the things that I just did in the past week is I launched a brand new virtual book club. And so I'm excited to see if people sign up for it and if there's interest for it. Right now it's virtual, but I'm hoping to make it in person at some point. So I just moved I'm living in Ottawa right now, and I just moved here less than a year ago. And so the pandemic has been really challenging for meeting new people in town. So I thought the book club might be a good way to start meeting people locally, in the hope that someday soon we can start meeting in person.
That's great. Congratulations. I'm glad to hear that. And I'm glad that you're feeling much better and had the time and energy necessary to invest back into yourself rather than external things. Let me ask you this. Do you meditate? Do you have a meditation practice? You do?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good, because what seems to me or sounds to me that you're just having a lot of stress in your life prior to.
I was just working in a very toxic work environment. And so moving to Ottawa, starting a new job helped. But then all of these life changes meant that I still didn't have a lot of energy. I just needed the time to recuperate and slow down and just, focus on self-care. And the pandemic was the perfect excuse for that.
Yeah. Have you heard the expression slow down to speed up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been meditating for several years now, and I was trying to, when I was in the middle of the burnout, I was trying all kinds of things just to try to recover. But as long as I stayed in that toxic work environment, nothing was getting better. So I finally just had to leave, and that's really what changed everything.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you made the change. It's important that you had actually the guts to do so, because a lot of people just, stay in whatever they know, the familiar, even though it might be, as you said, toxic and total nonsense and literally ripping them apart health-wise and mentally and emotionally and so on. But then, because of cutting the cord and the unknown, they kind of stick around for way too long until it's way too late to even make any judgment.
I do not want to be one of those people. So
yeah.
And this is part of the reason it was a toxic work environment, is there were a lot of very unhappy people who refused to leave. And and everyone, when I announced that I was leaving, everyone thought I was crazy, but it turned out to be the best decision I ever made. So no regrets.
Yeah, well, someone had to make a decision, right? No one else can make one. Might as well be you.
Yeah, might as well take charge of my own life.
Exactly. Wonderful. Welcome, Yasmin. Thanks for joining us. And if you guys want to say hi and introduce yourselves, you're welcome to unmute yourself and join the conversation as we're waiting for others to join us. Otherwise, I can go for a swim. A quick swim and be back in a few minutes. And what books are you guys reading or interested in your virtual book club? Is there like a specific topic, theme? What's
yeah, what I'd like the book club to focus on is really personal development books. So that's going to be the general theme. But the first book that we're going to read is Limitless by 𝗞𝗲𝘆 𝗣ცი𝗶H.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I haven't read it yet. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, and so.
Have you read it?
I'm making my way through it, and I'm about 50 pages in.
I see. I was going to ask you what's your main takeaway, but I guess maybe the main takeaway up to this point. Since
well, the one thing that he says is, because one of my concerns is, I'm in my 40s now, and I noticed that my memory is not what it used to be. And I don't know if it's because of age or just information overload. And what he says is, you can recover your memory. You can work on different techniques and recover your memory no matter what you're like. There are no excuses. So it gives me hope that I can start getting my memory back.
Yeah. Here's something you should think about. I don't know about your weight and stuff. I don't want to, because I cannot see. But a lot of the times when, especially in your age, because I'll give you an example. My grandma is 93 years old.
Mm-hmm.
She's still as sharp as I remember her when I was a child. Nothing has changed. What is important is to keep a very low amount of body fat, because the higher the body fat, the lower the blood flow through the brain. And the lower the blood flow, the less your cognition is. So it doesn't matter. It could be focusing, concentrating, remembering, learning, everything like this. So it always has to do with good blood flow to the brain, enough blood flow.
Okay.
So this is something to be conscious of. And obviously you can practice memorizing things, but what's the point of remembering things when you can make notes and now you can access Google and have all the information in the world? It's more of how you apply it in your life, and that's going to be the main part of the main topic we're going to get back to all the time during this webinar, because it's great for you guys to learn new information. That's where we start, but the key is to actually take it and apply it in your life so you can see the results rather than just knowing about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, like the memory is more like where I'd like to apply it is like remembering names, remembering faces. I used to be really, really good at remembering names, and I don't have that ability anymore. And part of me thinks it's because of information overload. I absorb a lot of information, much more than I used to, in my 20s and 30s. And part of it is like you don't practice the memorizing anymore. Like we don't memorize phone numbers anymore because they're all on the phone, right? So and what 𝗞𝗲𝘆 is saying is, when you're not using those muscles, you lose them. And so I think it's just not using the memory muscles enough. So yeah, it's not that I want to remember everything. It's just that there are specific things that I do want to do a better job of remembering.
Yeah, it's obviously good to stimulate your brain in different ways. And one of them would be memorizing things. Oh yeah, Yasmin says hi in the chat box. Well, everyone, just wanted to say hi and that I'm excited to learn with y'all. I normally am a talker, but today I just wanted to take notes and listen, which is why I'm muted. Okay, no worries. Take plenty of notes, but here's something I want you to keep in mind. During this whole conversation, the webinar is going to be recorded. So I do recommend and invite you at this first listening to the webinar to just be present with the information and just take it as it comes and see what resonates with you and what doesn't. And then later on, if you want to, you can always rewatch it and take detailed notes. So you don't have to really be like taking notes the whole time. So this is because it's always, we start when we are exposed to new information, it's always first on the intellectual level. We hear something, maybe that resonates with us, then we want to do something about it. We read it again, or we rewatch it, we expose again. Then it gets implanted in us on an emotional level, which actually gets us to take action on the new knowledge or information that we have. Because unless there is an emotional trigger, just the information itself is not going to get you to do anything. And the key eventually is to get it on the level of being, where the transformation actually occurs, where it becomes something that, or part of who you are, rather than something that you do from once in a while. Just like you said, you have a meditation practice now. I would imagine this is a daily habit.
Yeah.
And that's something or part of who you are, rather than something you do.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, I'm glad that you actually do. Do you mind sharing with us what kind of meditation do you practice?
It's just very simple. It's just breathing and counting my breaths. In four counts, hold 4 counts, breathe out 4 counts, hold 4 counts, and then just do that over and over again for at least 10 minutes, ideally 20 minutes.
I see. Well, here's what I'm going to recommend to you. If this is the type of meditation you've been reading, this is okay, just to kind of get a basic idea of meditation. But if you really want to have a meditation, because if burnout has been an issue for you before, it's very likely that it might be again. And in order to prevent this from ever happening again, I would recommend looking into Vipassana meditation. This is an extremely powerful technique to deal with stress and all kinds of nonsense in life and be very, very peaceful, calm, and tranquil, even in the most exciting situations that when, as they say, shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
So I would definitely recommend looking into it, and it's very powerful. This is the meditation technique I started practicing some years ago, and it's extremely powerful. It was developed, the story is that it was developed or was Buddha discovered it, or it was taught to him by someone, and he taught this technique to all of his disciples, and it's been around for thousands of years. It's one of the most significant and practical meditation practices out there, and breathing is part of it, but it's more about being present and aware and scanning through your body and being very grounded in the present moment, rather than allowing your mind to get you up and kind of gets you involved in all these thoughts and memories and projections of the future, anticipation or recollection of moments from the past. Because if you don't have none of these, there is no stress. Nothing exists. In the present moment, the things are. It's only when you start evaluating things, recalling things, or again, anticipating things, when all this emotions start to bubble up.
And how long is your meditation practice?
So I would recommend daily practicing at least 1 hour of meditation. 20 minutes is insufficient. It's definitely insufficient. I would definitely recommend 1 hour. If your health and well-being is important to you, you cannot go wrong with that, because then you'll be bulletproof to anything. Any nonsense in your life will be like, people will be stressing out. You'll be like, what the fuck are you guys freaked out about? They'll even feel like there's something off with you. Like, why are you always so relaxed? Because I know how effective it's been for me. That's why I recommend it to everyone. Because it's a very practical type of meditation that helps you to enhance the quality of your life, because you just lower the level of stress and just nonsense and overwhelm and all these things, and you can just be very tranquil and present in the moment, which is actually a skill. To be
Vipassana?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to write that down.
Yeah, write it down. And the way it works, just before we start, I'm going to share it. Actually, the way it works, they're like a charitable organization that's been organizing these retreats where you can go for 10 days. They feed you for free, you stay for free and everything, and you get to meditate for 10 days, and they teach you how to really meditate, and you get to break through some significant limitations in your meditation practice, your ability to concentrate and focus and so on, because it's intense. It's about 10 to 11 hours of meditation every day, and it's silent meditation retreat. So you don't get to speak with anyone. You are not allowed to watch anything, read anything. So you have 10 days to meditate and spend with yourself. So you have a very significant amount of time to really get to know thyself in a way, if you're open to it. And that's how it's taught. So you can sign up once again the whole pandemic is over and there, meetings and people are able. But I would imagine there are ways you can find some videos on YouTube or whatever where they can teach you how to actually
get started.
These techniques. Yeah.
Okay, I'll look it up.
But it's definitely very, very powerful and practical for modern day living. It's not a woo-woo, wow-woo kind of thing where you kind of wishful thinking and so on. It's very practical. It has significant results that you can feel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I always recommend it.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely welcome. And with that being said, we'll have three of us. Hopefully others might join us along the way, but I will start the webinar by thanking you first for showing up for yourself and investing the next hour and a half or so or two in yourself to learn some amazing, empowering information that's going to give you the tools and strategies you need to accelerate your personal growth if you're willing to show up and play full out in your life. My name is 𝗞𝗲𝘆. I am an expert, a transformational speaker, and a critically acclaimed best-selling author on the subjects of self-mastery, holistic transformation, and extreme performance. My company, Venturelentless, is the world's leading personal growth hacking agency dedicated to empowering individuals who pursue excellence to exponentially enhance the quality of their life by 10xing the only common denominator, themselves. I'm glad to have you join me today. And I would like to open up each and every single one of my lectures, webinars, and every discussion with the question, why? Why do you want to accelerate your personal development? What if you do, and what if you don't? Because he who has a strong why can bear anyhow, in the words of Frederic Nitsche. So we always want to have whatever new we are exposed to or we want to do in our life, we want to have a very strong why we are doing it. Because the why is what's going to keep us on track every time the going gets tough and we kind of rationalizing, throwing in the towel and giving up. So we want to have a very strong why that we can connect at any time whenever we lack the motivation or we feel burned out or whatever it is, to reconnect and just get so emotionally charged that we cannot see any logical reason why we should give up, and we stay on track and we keep on striding forward. That's why it's so important to have a why. Why is fundamental. So I would invite you to write down, why do I want to do this? And then once the webinar is over, sit down and really, really go deep on that question, because it's initially when you ask yourself why, your mind's going to come up with all these logical, rational reasons why. That's not what we're looking for. We are looking for the emotional reasons, the things that are going to charge you emotionally, the things that get you moving. Not the logical reasons. Logical reasons are not strong enough why to keep you going. You need to dive deep, and you want to drill deep until you reach a reason why that is so fundamental for you that it almost makes you want to cry when you think about it. That's the type of why I'm talking about, not just logically and rationally rationalizing, oh yeah, because it would be nice to have this or whatever, this is not good enough. This is not going to do the job if you're really committed to, for example, in this case, extraordinarily transforming yourself in your life by accelerating your growth. And the same concept or same idea can be applied in any field. Anything you decide to do in your life that you think it's important, find a very strong reason why you want to do it, and always reconnect to it whenever you feel like you're lacking the energy, you're lacking the motivation, things get tough, you feel like you cannot do it, you lack the confidence in yourself and so on. Always connect to the why. Always connect to your why. Always get back to your why and recharge yourself with the emotions that it triggers within you. This is fundamentally important to keep you on track and to make sure that you progress, take steps every day, and do whatever is necessary within your control to move forward towards your North Star, which is whatever that you want to manifest or become part of your reality. With that being said, I want to open up the webinar with the most significant point. Once you wrap your head around this fundamental truth, you can either have a paradigm shift or the way you start to view life changes dramatically. And this is it. We are all here in this game called life, on this planet called Earth School, to learn, to grow, and to contribute. This is it. We're not here to do anything else. We are here to learn, we're here to grow, and to contribute. And the more we can grow, the more we can contribute. This is a fundamental law in nature. Everything grows and contributes, or it's taken out of the food system or the food chain. So unless you realize this, you're always going to be very confused and stumble upon all these challenges, all these problems, whatever you want to call them in your life, all the suffering, all the pain, all the drama that comes into your life, and be like, oh, I'm so misfortunate, or I'm a victim, or whatever story you choose to tell yourself in those moments, because it's just a story. That's all it is. And who are you without your story? But if you are to connect to this truth and realize that we're here to learn and grow, and via the process of learning and growing, we can contribute more and give more of our gifts, the whole paradigm shifts, the whole idea of why we're here, and then it becomes natural that you cannot expect, as you go and graduate one grade and move on to the next one and so on, the test to be easier than before. You can only expect the test to get harder, or more testing, or more challenging, and so on, because it's a gradual progression going upwards. So this is a fundamental idea to wrap your head around. If you, being that you're already here to listen to this conversation, focus on how do you accelerate your growth, I would imagine that your growth is something that you are committed to, or at least interested in exploring and putting some energy and time into. Here is the truth. Every single thing we do in life, no matter what you call it, your job, your relationship, your business, your parenting, your pets, whatever you do, every single one of those things is just a vehicle for personal growth that allows you to grow in a unique way, because the type of growth you can have by being a parent, you cannot compare with the type of growth you can have by being a businessman or a businesswoman or someone who's, let's say, a teacher, right? All these vehicles serve our personal growth. And there are different vehicles we can take to grow in all these different dimensions, because we are not one-dimensional creatures. We have multiple characteristics and archetypes within us that can grow and expand. For example, the main four archetypes present in all human beings are the wizard, the lover, the warrior, and the sovereign. And all of these archetypes can be developed and called upon when their energy or their characteristic is the most functional or effective thing to use in a specific circumstance. because they all have their strengths and weaknesses. The key is to actually reconnect and develop all these dimensions of ourselves rather than disowning them and being just stuck on one side. There are two paths when we talk about growth altogether, personal growth. There are two paths that each one of us can take about growing. It's not a question of if we choose or like there is no option to avoid growth in life. It's simple as that. No matter how much we try to avoid it, even if we want to be in our comfort zone for the rest of our life, and we want to play it as safe as possible because our need for certainty is our driving need in life, life's gonna shovel it in our throats if it has to. Because you've probably noticed that with the main lessons that you had to go through life so far, that wasn't by choice, but you had to go through life. If you didn't answer the knock or the call, and you kept avoiding answering the call or the knock on the door, the lessons started to become more notable or more unavoidable. And eventually you had to suffer through some trauma in order to learn the lesson. So there are two paths we can take in life. The first one is Kensho, or growing through pain and suffering by having to endure trauma, because we don't choose to proactively grow. We avoid growth and we are kind of like stagnating in our comfort zone. Life has no choice but to send us the lesson in the most traumatic way so we can wake us up from our little dream and bubble. Because most people live a life of desperate, futile attempt to avoid feeling unpleasant feelings in their life or emotions. That's what's driving their entire behavior, always avoiding pain and moving towards pleasure. Now, this is great, but again, this model does not work because eventually it leads to trauma, because we are here to learn and grow. We don't get to choose whether we will learn and grow or not. We only have choice over how do we choose to learn and grow. Either through pain and suffering, which is retroactive, or Satori, which is growing through proactively seeking wisdom, enlightenment, and challenging ourselves to grow. Here is a very interesting fact that I want you to be very conscious of and aware of, and remember that anxiety is the emotion of growth every time or any time it's not being resisted. Every time you're about to grow, regardless is it through Kensho, or meaning through pain and suffering and trauma, or through Satori, by you proactively taking action and putting yourself in situations that will allow you to grow, that challenge you, that stretch you, anxiety will show up. It's natural. And it's triggered by the egoic structure in the mind, because every time we are in an unfamiliar situation, it triggers within us anxiety and fear, because we just don't know if we are able to handle the situation, or it's something new that we haven't done before. I can imagine there are many things that you had to learn to do, that you were very anxious initially, but now you don't even register when you do them, right? There are many things. For some people, it's learning to drive. For others, it's learning to ride a bicycle. For some of them, it's to surf, or whatever it is, especially those activities that in are involved in motion and doing something, or riding a motorcycle, for example, or whatever that might be. But once you do it, the fear is no longer there. So this anxiety or sense of anxiety always gonna show up in those moments. And that's absolutely normal. The key is not to resist it, to allow it to be, and first to allow it to really peak, unfold, and involve, or really absorb the whole feeling of anxiety. Because here is the key. With all of these feelings, just like if you taste a piece of food, maybe chocolate, whatever, something that has a unique taste that you can only know what it tastes like by tasting, with emotions, especially unpleasant emotions, it's the very same thing. They always peak and register at the same place. They don't peak higher. It's not like they go all of a sudden take you over and smash you up the wall or something like that. They always have the same peak. So every time the key is to really, every time this emotion shows up, you allow it to be and allow it to peak. So you can experience where it peaks and what it does. So you're no longer afraid of this emotion each and every single time it will show up. Because we are here to learn and grow. And if you are taking proactive action to seek the circumstances that allow you the 10x growth, you will be surprised to discover that there's always going to be a lot of anxiety coming with this. And you cannot allow the simple feeling, no matter how unpleasant, stop you and hold you back. It's just a feeling. Once you've set to this feeling long enough, you know what it's going to do. You know where it peaks. You get used to it so much that every time it shows up, it doesn't bother you anymore. Instead, you can actually reframe it in your head as excitement. So instead of saying, oh, I am anxious about this, oh, I'm extremely excited. I get to do this. I love doing this. You can lie using positive reframing to yourself in your mind that the situation you're in is not something scary that's going to hurt you and so on. Obviously, I do not recommend you putting yourself in extreme situations that endanger your life. But we're talking most of the times these biggest circumstances where this anxious energy shows up is public speaking, talking to a woman you like in the bar, or whatever it is. It's just social interactions with other human beings. It's not necessarily something that you have to go and fight a lion in the jungle. Now, that would be a completely different circumstance, right? Or you go and hunt something with a knife in the forest, or you bungee jumping from building to another building, or whatever it is, right? There are rare circumstances where obviously this fear would be natural and you should be mindful of, but they are very few and far between. Most cases, it's over-exaggeration of our egoic structure trying to keep us safe in our comfort zone because it's just unknown to us. It's an experience that we haven't yet stepped into. And because of this, we just experience this anxiety. But again, just like once you taste chocolate, to use chocolate as a clear example, you know each and every other time, whenever you buy whatever brand you buy of chocolate, that pretty much is going to taste like chocolate. And you know what chocolate is. So you're not going to be surprised anymore. It shows up, it shows up. Big deal. Live with it. Enjoy it, allow it to be. Don't resist it, because here is a very important fact as well. The more we try to resist any of those unpleasant emotions that rise up within us, the more we'll be experiencing an emotion of equal intensity. So resisting an emotion is like the same thing as if you are hurting yourself by creating and eliciting more of the same emotion or emotion with the same charge that impacts you or makes you feel unpleasant things. So we don't want to be fighting the emotion. We want to befriend it. And actually, the key is to actually use it as our magnet or our navigation, pointing us to the things in our life, in our environment, that are great opportunities for our growth. And use it as the compass to get us there. So be mindful of those things. Make a list. If you really are serious about accelerating your growth, there is no shortcuts in a sense of comfort zone shortcuts or shortcuts that involve being comfortable doing this. So make a list of all the things that you know that are not gonna hurt you in any way. They're not bad for your health. There are very little chance for you being hurt and so on, but you feel very anxious about even when you think about and anticipate, and go and really get yourself into them. Go and do it. And you will be quickly starting to experience and see a dramatic change in your level of development, confidence, level of calm, and ability to handle uncertainty that comes with this. Because here is another fundamental truth. We live in an impermanent universe. And the two things certain within our lifetime are debt and taxes. That's it. Outside of this, there is no certainty. And we have no control over anything besides ourselves. So if this is the case, the most effective and functional thing we can do through life is to develop our own confidence that we can handle uncertainty, whatever that might be, and present us with. Having this confidence within yourself that no matter what life throws at you, you're capable of dealing with and will come on the other end better off, is an extremely empowering skill and mindset to have. Because here is the thing. Just like in school, when you're in ninth grade, for example, you cannot expect to be given the test of 11th grader. Life will serve you only with tests and lessons that are in your grade or the year of school you at. Life's not gonna present you with a graduation, with a high school graduation test if you're still in ninth grade. So you can be confident to a certain degree that whatever test and lesson you're given, you will have the capacity and ability to handle it. So make a list from here on. Make a list. I'm sure that there are things within your life that you know that make you very anxious. Make a list and decide which one are you going to take on. Because again, at the end of the day, it's not about knowing about this. It's what do you do with all of these information? How do you apply it in your life? And you can even rate them from 1 to 3. Or like with 3 being the highest level of intensity of anxiety about it, and 1 being the lowest. And then maybe handle the small ones first so you can start building up this confidence and getting used to or desensitized of staying and allowing the emotion of anxiety to envelop you and be. And from that place, you can start teaching yourself to reframe it as excitement, because the chemistry within the body, whether we are excited, anxious, stressed out, or fearful, is always the same. The chemistry is absolutely the same. The body doesn't have any clue. And since body follows mind, what we do is to reframe it in a positive way. So we're no longer anxious, we're no longer fearful or stressed out, we become excited because we have a rare opportunity to seize this amazing chance to grow 10x in a very short amount of time, rather than having to, anyways, if we refuse to do so, wait for this unexpected moment when trauma is going to find its way into our life because there is a lesson we need to learn that we have been refusing to learn. So it's a matter of choice. We always have a choice. That's why we have free will. The only free will we have, honestly, because everything in the human condition is completely habitual and follows well-defined patterns. The only freedom we have within this is our free will, which is expressed every time we make a choice. So now you have this information and you have a good choice to make, a very important choice to make. How do you play the game of life from here on, knowing that you cannot fail because you're here to learn and grow? And even if you fail the test, trust me, you're going to get a second shot at it, because there is no failure. I want you to understand this. There's only feedback. The key is to keep looking for new ways. If you failed at attempting something, don't take it as the end. Keep iterating, trying new things. It's just feedback. People learn a lot more when they fail or they make a mistake when they succeed, because most people, when they succeed, they don't go and dissect what happened, what was there present, and really make sense of the situation so they can analyze the factors that led to their success. Very few people ever do. They just continue on as business as usual, right? Oh, I'm lucky, right? Lucky day, I'm great, whatever it is. But when you fail, or when you hit your head against the wall, you tend to slow down and really pay attention what's going wrong here, right? You see what is contributing for the circumstance you find yourself in. So you want to be very, very cautious about these things and conscious, and use your experience, your failure, not as failure, but as feedback, because there is a gift in every single thing. And here is how we reframe this as well. Why is this happening for me? Very important question. It's not happening to me, it's happening for me. Why is it happening for me? How is this benefiting me? Once we have this question, because questions are the steering wheel of the mind, we can find the gift within the challenge, the trauma, the obstacle, whatever we had to go through, the lesson that we had to go through. But we have to point our mind to go and find it, rather than the usual, which will be validation of why we suck, why life is so bad, why whatever it is, always the reasons, all these logical, rational reasons that the ego will come up with in order to protect our own little insecurities and fear of not being good enough. So always ask yourself, why is this happening for me? When the going gets tough, when you're served with a big lesson, maybe it's a graduation event. There are lessons in life, and then there are graduation events, right? Graduation events tend to be much, much greater in scale of complexity and so on. So they really test you if, let's say, if you're ready to graduate from grade 9 and go into grade 10, or maybe even transition from high school into college in art school. So we always want to be focused on a positive. As Napoleon Hill said, every seed of adversity carries with it an equal or greater seed of benefit. Again, we have a choice. Do we look at what's missing or do we look at what's present? It always comes down to a choice. And it's always directing our consciousness to the benefit, or how are these circumstances benefiting us? Because at the end of the day, we are discussing personal growth. And you cannot expect to grow in your comfort zone. Rather, you actually stagnate. And you will start to feel various unpleasant emotions. And the only way you actually can stay in your comfort zone for too long without growing and making progress is through three very common coping mechanisms. First one is numbing, meaning you drink, you smoke, whatever it is, something that gives you an alternate state of consciousness, right? Gets you all kind of like relaxed for a moment. You forget about reality. The other one is called distraction, meaning like you're always busy, you always have these things to do, you're always overwhelmed, you're always just busy, so you never get the time to really sit down and hand or face your problems or the circumstances you need to be dealing with. And the next one is denial. You simply deny and you just suppress it. Like you deny it, but then all of these emotions, because our souls are here in this game of life to learn and grow. And every time you are now not doing this, there's going to be, again, these very unpleasant emotions. Like they will be bubbling up within you because your soul wants to grow. It wants to learn. It wants to expand. It's not here to stay in its little comfort box. And every time you're not allowing it to do so, it's going to create an unpleasant feeling within that you just cannot ignore for too long. Because the more you suppress these emotions again, the grander and more unpleasant the sensations, feelings, and emotions begin within or become within. And you can expect that based on the law of attraction, which is simply put, whatever energy or emotions you radiate out is what you attract. So if you're radiating on whatever unpleasant emotion there is, you can be sure that you will attract something in your life that will make you feel the same way, or it's resonant with the same vibration. So eventually, again, you will be bringing the traumatic lesson you need in order to start learning and growing, or continue if you have been denying this for a long time. That's why it's fundamentally important to start shifting the way we are and approach life to, I'm here to learn, I'm here to grow, I'm taking proactive action every single day to do it, not just by reading books and all that kind of stuff, because yeah, it's great, read books and so on, but again, it's stepping into this zone of discomfort, stepping into those things, leaning in your fears and anxieties, and overcoming them by being courageous, because that's the key. You cannot overcome our fear or diminish fear. There's always going to be, as long as you live in a human body, which is definitely this lifetime, you will have fear. Fear is natural, as well as anxiety and stress. They are naturally wired within the human body to notify us of specific things in our environment. So you're never going to be able to, regardless of what you do, to overcome them. The key is to be courageous. And every time fear shows up or anxiety, you step into it. You lean into it, because the moment you do, the very moment you do, you see it it just disappears. Whatever the circumstance was, whatever this thing that felt so or seemed so scary or whatever it is, the very moment you take the first step in, gone. The emotion transmutes into energy that propels you forward. However, you can only know this by going and testing this self or testing this thing out. I know very well because I do it all the time. This is how I've lived my life for as long as I know myself. This is why I'm sharing these ideas with you, because there's not a lot of information out there talking about how to actually accelerate your growth. And it all has to do with finding the things that really, again, using the anxiety as a compass to point you at where are those lessons at, where are all these amazing opportunities for growth. And going and handling each and every single one of them until they literally, none of those things anymore make you feel anything besides excitement, and you're just doing it because you can. I'm sure that there's plenty of those things within your life that you know of, that you've been avoiding for a long time. Maybe it's a conversation you need to have with your loved one. Maybe it's a conversation you need to have with your parents because whatever happened back in the day. Whatever it might be. Again, maybe it's you going up and standing up in front of people and speaking. Maybe it's you speaking up for yourself whenever people are putting you down. Whatever that might be in your case. There's always something. Because here's the thing. This is how you know if there is more growth for you left to do here or not. Unless you're a saint, you can be sure that there's plenty of growth and learning left for you to do. And I'm not a saint, and I can't imagine any saint joining me for a webinar at this point, even though that would be an honor for me to have you. So thank you if you are. But here's the point. Continue on. We are here to learn and grow. And if that's how you live your life, you're going to be living an extremely extraordinary, amazing life of adventure and just epic life that people can talk stories about for lifetimes to come. Because what are the popular archetypes there? What are the mythological stories? When you look at it, it's always about somebody, a hero, the hero's journey from the popular idea of Joseph Campbell's book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, and based on his work, with all the mythology, when you look at it through human history, all the ancient civilizations, there was always this, what he called the hero's journey, where someone is called to go and grow in life by conquering a major fear that they have or whatever it is. And it's always by stepping into it, by going on this journey and seeing that rather than a big scary monster, there is this little midget covered with sheet once you step into it. Because yeah, while you're on the outside and it's unknown, unfamiliar, your body, again, due to evolutionary biology, will elicit all this anxiety on demand. No problem whatsoever. You can be sure of it. The point, again, is to get desensitized. Because it's just a feeling. Just like chocolate. Once you taste chocolate, you know what it's going to taste next time. Doesn't matter what brand you buy. It's same with this. And every time it shows up, every time you start feeling it and you reframe it mentally in your head as the energy of excitement is going to propel you forward. Yeah, you're going to feel physiologically, you're going to feel like, hey, yeah, I'm all like wired up and energized, but that's great. You're going to need that energy anyways. All top level athletes, before any big race competition begins, even though they've been doing this for years and years, they've trained their asses out to do it. They don't need to even think about what they're going to do. It's already an automatic process. All they're there for is to really get the medal, for example. They get the same kind of anxiety But they don't never think of it as anxiety. They think of it as excitement. They feel alive in that moment, because the only people that do not experience any emotion, and especially unpleasant ones, are dead. And I would imagine that's not your goal in this lifetime. So get used to and befriend the sense or this emotion of anxiety, and do not allow it to hold you back. It's just a feeling. That's all it is. The more you feel it, the more you sit with it, rather than trying to resist it, suppress it, deny it, and all these things, the more empowered and stronger you will become and build the courage you need to step into it or lean into it each time it shows up. And the more you'll see that every time it does, you have this desire to actually go and handle it rather than avoid it, which would be the standard for most people. Because once you become fearless, your life becomes limitless. All limitations are psychological. There are no limitation that exists outside of your head. And usually, again, it's this pre-wired habitual behavior that is driving us to avoid feeling negative emotions, that's driving us to always stay in the comfort zone. Because by default, the human physiology or body and nervous system is wired for comfort. And each time you are out of comfort, you're gonna be feeling these sensations. So become fearless. Develop your courage by stepping into it every day. You don't have to take the big plunge. I'm the other extreme. I always find out which one is the most exciting one, and I go for it first. And then whatever is remaining, we'll deal with this later. It's all good. So make a list and commit to taking action and going and handling and stepping into this at least one thing tomorrow. Don't wait until next week or whatever. Do it tomorrow. This is fundamental. And I want to ask you guys, what are you willing to commit on taking on and handling tomorrow, right now? Anything that comes to mind right away? Please feel free to share in the box, unmute yourself, whatever it is. I want you to commit to something, to yourself, not to me, to yourself.
Yeah, fear looks so big when we look into it. It is hard to face that fear sometimes.
Well, the more you deny it or the more you delay, the harder it becomes, because you're building a habit of not facing your fears. Because it's just a habit. It's as simple as that. So start small. You don't have to start with the biggest one, right? You don't have to be as crazy as I am, or somebody who's like, who likes to feel all of these sensations in their body. Start small. Something that is, it's a fear of yours, but on the scale of 1 to 3, it's a 1, it's not a 3. So, because here is the thing. What I want you to develop is an evidence of the fact that the moment you step into your fear, it just disappears. It's just this anticipation before you actually take an action and stepping into it, that you feel the fear. It only exists in that moment. It does not exist once you're into it, whatever you are going to do. This emotion evaporates right away. But you need to have an evidence of that. That's why go and do something. Go and do something tomorrow so you have the data point that tells you, yes, what Martin says is true. It's not made up.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
But go and test it out. Go and test it out for yourself. There must be one thing that you can go and do tomorrow. Now, if you're fearless, then let's change things up. If you're fearless, what would you go and do?
If I am fearless, usually I would do anything with which I can do alone. Like I have done skydiving. I am not fearless of all those stuff. But when it comes to talking to someone or making them understand, that is what pulls me back. It is fearing because I am not sure whether they understand me well.
Okay. So if you're fearless, what would you do?
Hey guys. So hi. So real quick, I wanted to say thank you personally. I'm about to have to head out, but I wanted to give my input on this and just like thank you. I wrote so many notes down. I definitely needed this. But I think that the biggest takeaway from this is the anxiety. We're giving like the anxiety, it seems like what you're saying, that we're giving anxiety and fear and all that too much power. So one thing that I definitely need to do tomorrow is just send out a resume, send out the thing, like I've been wanting this job and I couldn't get myself to do it. I didn't know why. I couldn't get myself to send. It's a news anchoring job and giving fear and anxiety too much power. So that would be my thing for tomorrow. Sending it.
Well, I'm glad that you're sharing this, and I'll tell you what it is. It's fear of rejection. That's what it is that's holding you back, because you have this fear that you might be rejected. Well, that's a possibility. However, here's the thing, right? Everything is possible in the universe we exist. But if that's not the one, you can keep sending your resumes to other opportunities like that, and eventually, if it doesn't happen tomorrow, it's going to happen if you really want it.
Yes, no, I agree 100%. And what's really annoying is that I feel like for most of us, we know that, yes, just keep going. It'll come, whatever it is that we might be going through. But again, it's just not wanting to face that anxiety or those fear overall. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, no, and here is the thing again. By not willing to face it, you still experience it by avoiding it. So it's not like you're escaping it. It's not like it's not a very effective strategy, because you still have to experience a very similar emotion within you, just by denying to experience it and step into it. So you're not doing yourself a favor. That's really the key. The sooner, the better, right?
Yeah, no, I think that the chocolate analogy, that really helps, because it's true. It's like once you already get through it, you'll know where the peak is. You'll just know what it is. And I hope it's not as painful the second time around, and I don't think it will. It's just getting used to something. It seems like it's what you're explaining.
Absolutely. Well, you get desensitized to it, just like everything else.
Yeah, I'll work on that one. But I have to go to work, unfortunately. But you said this was going to be recorded, right? And do we
Yes.
get like a copy? Okay.
Yes. Well, let me post just in the chat box for you. You can save it right now, my YouTube channel, and then you'll find the recording in a couple of days on my YouTube channel. That's where I upload them. Let me just post it in there for you so you can save it. And I wanted to wish you Godspeed with your submitting your interview, and submitting your resume, and then with your interview. I'm sure you're going to get this gig, and we look forward to seeing you on TV news anchoring.
Thank you. I hope so too. But this is perfect, but the day right before I'm supposed to do it anyway. So thank you a lot for everybody. Thank you guys.
Thank you for joining us, Yasmin, and thank you for sharing. Well, I really appreciate that.
No, of course. Thank you so much. You're doing amazing. So I can't wait to watch all of this in its entirety in a couple of days. But thank you.
Yeah, save the link. I just pasted it there.
Okay, let me go ahead and grab it.
What about you, Natalie? If you're fearless, what would you do tomorrow?
So if I was fearless, I would jump on Facebook or on Instagram and do my very first live video. It's something I've been wanting to do for a long time now, and I just haven't been able to work up the courage to do it.
Well, you're doing it right now.
I know, but I'm doing it
on Facebook
to two people. But the idea of putting myself out there and making myself very vulnerable terrifies me. But I keep going, I keep going back and thinking about it. So I know it's something that I need to do. But it's finding the courage to actually press the button and do it.
Well, here's the thing. You're making it about yourself. That's why this is the most important thing. Whenever you feel resistance, because I would imagine you want to do this from a place of sharing something that you know that will be of value to others, right?
Yes.
Well, don't make it about yourself. Make it about being of service and adding value rather than, if would I do well, come from this place. It's not about you looking good and all these things. It's all about how you can be of value, how you can be of service. And if you come with this intention on your video, the way you will perform will be a lot more different, because you won't be like, am I doing this right or whatever. It's not going to be coming from your ego. It's going to be ethnocentric. It's going to be coming from a very different place, and the energy you'll be tapping into will be very different. So just connect with the camera. Ultimately, you're talking to the camera. You're not talking to an audience from the sense of who's watching, who's not watching. You have no idea. Just like today, there could have been 1,000 people that tuned in. That would have been wonderful, but it's only 3 of us. But it doesn't make a difference. To me, it's as long as I get a chance to serve, because it's not about me. It's about how can I empower you. So make it about being of service and empowering others, and focus on this. This must be your intention, and you'll see once you switch the focus of yourself to how can I be of service, a lot of this fear will dissipate.
Well, actually, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, and it reminds me of a switch that I had, in the last year or two when it comes to job interviews, actually. Now, instead of me, being desperate and trying to sell my services and say, this is why you need to hire me and this is what I can offer, I've reframed it and think about, well, this is a two-way interview. So I have to look at what can this company offer me? Why would I want to hire them as the company that I work for? And just reframing that I'm not nervous in job interviews anymore. They're being interviewed just as much as I'm being interviewed. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. That's very important, actually, for all of you out there who go to interviews, that you're not being interviewed. It's a mutual process. So you're interviewing the employer as well to see if they're worthy of your time, energy, and input.
Mm-hmm.
Because this gives you a very different place to negotiate from and talk, and the energy you're going to have. And just as you said, Natalie, just the way you're gonna feel. The fear is not gonna be there anymore. You're not gonna be as anxious. You'll be a lot more authentic the way you present yourself and ask questions and so on. So it'll be a very different experience altogether.
Absolutely. And it's not just about what I can offer them, but it's what they can offer me. And it has really changed, the job interview process for me. And I've never thought to apply it to this, Facebook Live or Instagram Live. It's reframing it as offering a service to others. How can I help others instead of making it all about me? I really like that. That's very helpful.
I'm glad. And actually, we're going to talk about a point in a little bit that's going to definitely, I'll recommend you really wrap your head around, because that's going to change everything. It's going to be a paradigm shift for you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely. I want you to actually commit right now to yourself that tomorrow you're going to do a minute long or 5 minute long. It doesn't matter. As long as it's at least a minute long Facebook Live and talk about a subject that you care about, from a place of service, sharing some insights with others, right? Coming from that place, always from that energy of serving others, not like, oh, do I look nice? Am I saying the right thing? Or always all these things, right? Because this thought process only occurs when we are concentrated on ourselves. Once we switch the focus externally, or how can we be of service, none of this exists anymore, because it's no longer about us. It's about how can we add value ultimately, just as it is through this conversation at this moment. It's all about how can I add value to you so you can go and transform your life, or again, take something and apply it in your life and see the results, and hopefully share it with others too, so we can keep on sharing this abundance, because there is so much to go around.
Totally agree with that.
And what about your Chana? I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yep, yeah, that's right. Today I did one thing that is fearful for me. Like, I was not able to ask anything for the favor. I was just giving everyone whatever they want, but I was not asking from them what I want, or asking any question, what about this? Like, I was always feeling that thing would be taking them away from me. So today I asked a question on a community that what I wanted. So that is the one thing I did today, which was fearful for me, and it went away as soon as I asked it.
I'm glad that you did. Keep on doing it, because here is the thing. You are, from what I hear, this comes from your desire to please others, because you have a fear of rejection as well. Because you fear that if you're to ask for something that you need, rather than just being the one who always gives the attention, helps everyone and so on, but never asks for favor, because somebody will reject you.
Exactly, yeah.
It's coming from this place. Well, here's the thing. You cannot allow this fear to hold you back, because the only person that can reject you is you, by not asking. Because by not asking, you're rejecting yourself, technically speaking.
Yep.
And
yeah, so true.
Just practice and develop this new habit to ask for what you need. Because at this moment, you have a habit of doing the opposite.
Yep.
But I'm glad that you did today, and do it tomorrow, and every single day. Every single day, because now you have an evidence.
Yes, I do.
Start there. If that's something that's a significant issue for you, start there. And work your way up to more frightful things and so on.
Yeah, totally agree, Martin. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And if you're fearless, what would you do? You're saying doing something by yourself, but what would that be? Would you like to share with us?
Nothing is coming up to my mind right now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then you have a lot of important thinking to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Please find one thing and do it. But keep on asking for the things you need, always. Especially when you know it's not coming from a egocentric place, being that I would imagine you're someone who is always giving more than receiving from the perspective because you're not willing to ask.
Mm-hmm.
But learn to do it. All you need to do is develop the habit. It's basically to change the habit that you already have, which is the exactly opposite thing. So all you need to do is just doing it. Maybe start with small things, right? Don't ask with somebody to give you $1 million, even though why not? You know?
Yeah.
But
do you think this is what I am in a comfort zone? Because I don't know what I should do next. Is it a comfort zone, or I don't know what to do, or I should think a lot about it?
Well, the fact that you haven't thought about what would you do if you're fearless tells me that you definitely live in a comfort zone, because unless that was the case, you would already have a list of things that you want to tell me about. Because I have a list of things, and I'm somebody who's been conquering fears ever since.
Okay. I should think a lot then. I will work on that.
Definitely. And again, because all of these fears are just holding you back. They're setting all these psychological limitations within you. And why is this important? Because you're unable to go out there and give your gifts. That's why, to me, it's so important for us to handle these fears, because just like with Natalie, she wants to share some knowledge that he has or insight or something. And by she having a fear of getting on Facebook Live, she's unable to give her gifts or share value with others. That's why it's important to be able to overcome this fear so we can go out there and give our gifts into the world and be of service and contribution to others. Again, as I mentioned in the beginning, the learning and growing is only important because it allows us to contribute in a more significant way. That's why it matters. Because if it was just for us to say, oh, you know, I have this diploma on the wall and I'm so great and I'm so great and I'm so great and I'm so great, then it's a very futile attempt to feed our ego. It's not coming from the right place, and you can be sure that life's gonna give you the lesson that you need in order to really lower it down on the ego side and focus on being ethnocentric and being of value and serving others. But that's why it's so important.
I have an insight that just came to me. So as we're making the list of the things that scare us, I'm wondering if it might be helpful for each thing to also list why it's important for you to do it. Like what service can you offer? How can you add value? Why you need to do it? Instead of just tackling it and you're still scared and terrified, but reframing it as to why it's important for you to take this action and what you can offer to other people and how you can serve other people when you take this action.
That's a great point. Absolutely. The why question comes in is so powerful in this context, because then it's like you almost don't have a choice why you not to do it, right? Because once you have a strong
not to do it.
Yeah. And then whenever the anxiety, the fear shows up, you connect to the why, to the feeling, the energy of the why, and then you just go and crush through that fear. Because once you do, it's like, wow, you know, the way you're going to feel about yourself. Again, the self-confidence, the courage you're going to be able to develop, because courage is a muscle. You can train it just like everything else. And you can train yourself to develop your fear muscle, meaning that you're more fearful than courageous. It just, as the saying goes, which dog do you feed?
Mm.
But yeah, absolutely. The why, very important, especially if it's a significant fear for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where we're gonna really need the fuel to get us to take action on it. On the smaller things, maybe not so much. But on these major things that we've been procrastinating on and holding off on and so on these things, absolutely. And again, dig so deep that you're gonna find a why that is so emotionally charged for you that you cannot imagine not doing it.
And Martin, I have a question for it. Like, how do you list that all the things I want to do that is more fearful? I have also listed my goals and stuff, but I can do it without procrastination, all those stuff on daily basis. But nothing is like fearful for me. I can do it easily.
Well,
Is
that's...
there any tip you can give for that?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Here, I have plenty of tips. Thank you for asking. Here's the tip. If you know how to achieve your goals are shit. Simply as that.
Oh.
If you know how to achieve your goal is shit. Meaning that you're selling yourself short on your greatness. A goal you need to set is a goal that you don't know how to achieve. Because a purpose of a goal is not to achieve it, but to become the person who can achieve this goal. Because then, if you don't achieve it in this attempt, you can achieve it anytime.
That is profound. Yep.
I'm glad. I do like goal setting too. And we are actually, just to mention this, but we opened the conversation early on with Natalie where it was just me and her. She was telling me about being realistic with her goals and so on. And I said that being realistic is crap. You always have to shoot for the stars, because the popular expression is in order to end amongst the stars, you should at least shoot for the moon. So always have very high goals that you have no idea how to achieve, because the key is not to know the how, but to know what you want to ultimately achieve from the perspective of not the goal itself, but what is your vision at the end of the rainbow? What's the end goal? What's the end result that you want? Because these goals, they're usually steps or milestones along the way to this big end at the end of the rainbow. So always being focused on that and taking the step that is obvious to you right now, step by step. This is how it goes. Hey guys, I'm back. I apologize for this. My Zoom crashed on me as I was trying to convey my point, but let me get on the screen here. There we go. Yeah, sometimes it does that for unknown to me reasons, but hopefully I was able to save the video from the previous part, so we're going to be able to have the recording. But here's the thing. We were talking about goals, right? So always be focused only, no matter how large and unknown to you the how to achieve your goal is, always be focused only on the immediate next step that you can take today to move forward towards that goal. The moment you do, the next step will present itself. This is the simplest way to put it into words. Your concern is not with the how, your concern is with the what. All you need to be connected is the what you want. What is the outcome, the end outcome, the desired outcome that you're seeking? That's the goal. And then taking a step every single day. And whenever the going gets tough, again, as Natalie suggested, apologies, have a very strong why that you can connect to. Why is it important for you to achieve this goal? So every time the going gets tough, you can reconnect with your why and recharge yourself with the energy and all of this excitement you need to move forward on it and take action. Because obviously, if it's a very big goal that you don't know the how of, there's going to be a lot of unknowns, a lot of fears, a lot of anxieties, a lot of insecurities that will show up. But if you have a strong why, and given that we had this conversation, you've been through the webinar, you'll have a lot more different perspective now on how to deal with all these unpleasant emotions when they show up. And rather than holding you back, you'll be stepping on the gas and blasting through them. So I do want to and hope to see Natalie live on Facebook tomorrow. And Archana, you may be skydiving, whatever it is that revs your heart. There's, you know, everything's good, whatever it is for you. Like, for example, I'll tell you one of mine. And I've been like, I haven't been praying for it or something, but I do want to experience like being on the water and experience like a shark near me, right? This will be a very interesting experience. So there are certain things, yeah, I know there might not be the best in, say, maybe the outcome is something that I'm not really like hoping for, but it's going to be an interesting experience because once you put in those circumstances is where you really get to see how all this growth you have been doing actually applies into real world situations. Because it's very nice and dandy when we talk about personal development and you're just reading books and all these kind of things and it's all wishful thinking, but when shit hits the fan is when you really get to see where you are on that level with personal development and how much you have grown as a person. Because when everything is, you know, nice and dandy, you know, it's very easy to pretend or to put a face in a mask. But when your life presses you against the wall, it's a whole different circumstance. You become a whole very different person. And that is when you can really clearly evaluate how much you have grown from, let's say, the last time we were in a situation that pushed you to the end. So let me get back to the notes I had here. So the key is, if we want to put it into words, is to become comfortable feeling uncomfortable. This is a fundamental skill and muscle to develop. If you develop this muscle, life becomes a game. Because again, you can expect every time you're in an unfamiliar situation to feel any level of anxiety, fear, and so on. This is just how our psychology and physiology is wired. So you cannot be surprised by those things. If anything, you can actually expect them to show up. And instead of, again, by allowing them to stop you or hold you back, to reframe them and being, oh, I'm excited. I no longer live as a caveman 50,000 years ago with saber-toothed cats running around me because our physiology and psychology was wired to allow us to survive in those type of circumstances. Luckily for us, we don't live in that circumstance anymore. Our lives are a lot more predictable, safe, convenient, comfortable, and so on. However, if we develop the habit and the muscle of feeling comfortable in our discomfort, or when we step outside of our comfort zone, then our comfort zone can be the whole globe. It can be the whole universe. Then the comfort zone is wherever we choose to make it. And it always or it's only through taking these steps, by building up this muscle, going in the gym every day and doing a little rep for that muscle, called comfortable being discomfortable, or however you want to put it in your language. The labels doesn't matter. As long as you actually, again, you go and face one of your fears and you do something about it, and you step into it and you allow it, and you have this, again, data point that shows you that the fear only existed, or the anxiety, while you are anticipating what's going to happen. Because most people are highly ineffective in their ability to use their imagination, because instead of imagining best case scenario, they stoke themselves out by imagining worst case scenario. Now, another thing you can do is to, every time you're going to be taking on this very scary thing that freaks you out, instead of, again, because you're experiencing the anxiety most likely in anticipation because you're projecting worst case scenario. Well, what if you did the opposite? What if you started to project best case scenario and you see the colors of the rainbow and you just like, wow, you got the title, you got the big promotion, whatever it is, right? Things went in a better way than you can even imagine in your wildest imagination. What if you imagine that? How would that change everything going into this thing that makes you frightened?
That would be really awesome. Then we would do again and again, for sure.
Exactly. Well, please do it. It's something very powerful to do. Again, all these things you can apply. You can start doing them. Because here's the thing. I know everybody, there's people that sometimes tell me like, oh, I don't have an imagination. Really? Do you feel afraid of things? Sometimes you get anxious? Yeah, I do, but I don't have an imagination, really. You're just not using in the most effective context. You definitely have it. You just never realized that it was applied to no good ends. But then again, this is trained behavior, and you have to be training yourself. Think of it as life is one big school in a gym. Every day you train a different muscle, and not necessarily, again, physical muscles, but all these metaphysical or mental muscles, different aspects of our cognitive abilities. Imagination is one of them. So always imagine best case scenario. This is an extremely empowering thing you can do before going into anything that freaks you out. Now here's a little hack I'm going to show you, because thinking, obviously, it's important because body follows mind, but mind follows body too. So anytime you're in a situation where, let's say, you want to talk in front of people, you want to be doing something that involves others, and you want to put yourself in a very resourceful and powered state, you want to do the Superman pose. It's hard for me to fit in the whole picture, but you have your hands as high up as you can and open like Superman, and your feet too. You stay like this and you put a big grin on your face, and you stay like this until your hands get so tired that you cannot hold them back, hold them up anymore. And you will see that there's no way that you cannot feel great. It's just impossible. So I want you to do this every time. Maybe you, Natalie, tomorrow, when you're going to step in front of the camera, prior to this, do this for 5 minutes. And then get in front of the camera. But this is an important, very important hack, because our physiology directly affects our psychology and the other way around. But physiology, knowing how to use and keep our body, is something that's instantaneously affect our psychology. So this is a very, very powerful and simple thing you can take and apply tomorrow. I already said this, but I'm going to repeat it again. There is no option for growing within your comfort zone. All you are doing is creating a traumatic event in your life that's going to come to you at some point. Because again, we don't get a choice whether we're going to learn and grow in this life. We only get to choose how do we learn and grow. So if you're all pillowed up and like nice and cozy in your comfort zone, you can expect something big to come and snap you in the head. Unless you start making moves and stepping outside of your comfort zone. Because the lessons, unless you go and look for the lessons, they're going to find you. It's as simple as that. Again, it's up to you to make a decision. Do I sit and wait for trouble to find me? Or do I go and overcome my fears and become fearless in the process and remove any limitations that have been holding me back because they only exist in my head? Think about it. Our ancestors inhabited the whole planet more than 50,000 years ago. They didn't have airplanes, they didn't have cars, they didn't have horses, or any of this. It was all done on foot. People that go forage and live off the land inhabited the whole planet 50,000 years ago. And now, today, we, these amazing human beings capable of so much, have boxed ourselves in these little comfortable, miserable lives, trying to avoid things that doesn't even make sense avoiding just so we don't feel fear. If we didn't feel fear, if you don't feel anxiety, we're most likely dead. It's those contrasts of feelings that allows us to really feel in full intensity all of the pleasant emotions in our life. Because if we don't have this contrast, another point I want to make is that our physiology and neurology, the way our senses work, is on a very simple concept of contrast. The bigger the contrast, the higher fidelity the experience is. So if we constantly or often experience fear, then when we experience happiness, it's going to be a lot more happier than if we are always kind of like in the middle. Because there is, you see the gap is not that big. But where you have this gap, you have a lot of fidelity to the experience. So it's going to be a lot, the way you, when you are joyful, you'll be a lot more joyful. Because you had something to contrast it with. So there is actually a positive in putting yourself into those situations and really feeling alive, because it's when you're in those situations when you really feel alive. Right? The most significant fear we all have is the fear of not being good enough. And that's what's holding us back. It's a totally unreasonable fear. And it comes from conditional love in early childhood and all of these programming in our early childhood. And that's the number one thing that is holding us back, especially in our modern society, in our modern world, when there is no longer, again, saber-toothed cats, big animals, big cliffs to fall off, or whatever it is, like natural dangers to us, but it's all just social interactions and so on. It always comes down to, apologies once again, my Zoom is zooming out and in and out kind of deal, which is a bit confusing, but sometimes it works perfectly, like nothing's wrong, and sometimes it does this all the time. Hopefully I'll be able to figure out how to save all the videos and upload them, because there's a lot of good content here which I don't want to lose. And I'm glad I was able to come back to our conversation. But as I was saying, the number one fear that's holding us back in this modern days is the fear of not being good enough. And therefore, we won't be loved because it's coming again from this dysfunctional parenting and conditional love model that all of our parents and people have grown up because they don't just have a better model of what love is and how to discipline kids. So this is where it's coming from. It's always coming from this lens of, I don't want to ask, for example, as you Archana mentioned, you have fear for asking for things. That's because you don't want to be rejected. Because if you're rejected, this will trigger within you the fear of not being good enough. And then you feel by this that you won't be loved. It's just a very dysfunctional loop that plays. And it's a very strong pattern that runs and operates our behavior in modern day. However, again, the most important thing that you can do in this life, besides the growth and contribution, is to realize that you are enough as you are. And what I recommend you all to do every single day is to do some simple reaffirmations and ask yourself, rather than just stating, because it's more powerful to ask yourself, is to ask yourself on a daily basis, especially when you're in front of the mirror early in the morning or where you go before bed. Why am I so amazing? Why am I so enough? Why am I always enough? Why have I always been enough? And why will I always be enough? Because it's through this auto-suggestion and repetition that you can install this belief and thought within yourself on a very deep level. Because over time, in your early childhood, when we were all very malleable, through our parents not intentional, but not knowing better situation of how to be a parent, we were conditioned in the exact opposite way of, I need to be listening to mom and dad and be good in order for them to love me, because every time I'm not good, they don't love me, right? That's what conditional love is. And then we take this dysfunctional model and we live our romantic lives still using the same model. Or if you do what I ask you for, I will love you. But if you don't, I'm not going to love you, right? There is no such thing as conditional love. You either love or you don't. It's as simple as that. Love can only be unconditional.
And can you also give an example of unconditional love?
Yes, I will give you a great example. I was seeing a woman for about 2.5 years. And it was a great experience. I've always loved her, and I still love her within my heart. And for example, she stopped replying to my text messages for whatever reason, which is fine. I still love her in my heart. I still send her love rather than, because sometimes my mind would go to this place like, why would she do this and this and that? I catch myself like my ego thoughts are starting to run in the background. But in my core, coming from my heart, I always gonna love her. The only thing I can feel for her is love and be happy that we had this amazing relationship together, because it was coming to a place where it's gonna end anyways. And I just my goal was to actually just meet as friends, have coffee and have a conversation. But maybe that's not something that she's comfortable with at this point. So this is an example of unconditional love. You just loving because you can love. And because it's coming first and foremost from a place where you love yourself first. Because you cannot have unconditional love to anything else unless you love yourself first. It's a very important place to start from.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. And one more thing is, what should we answer ourselves like? why am I enough? What should I answer myself?
Oh,
So
no,
what
you
do
don't answer anything. You just,
Okay.
instead of saying, I am enough, you say, why am I so enough? Because questions are the steering mind of the steering wheel of the mind. And by asking such a question, no matter what programming you have had for a long time, the mind cannot refuse the question and will find an evidence and give you evidence of why you are enough. So it's not about you finding the answer. It's about you asking or reframing it as a question to make it even more effective than if it was just simply an affirmation, which will be a statement, which is, I am enough, I am enough. But then if you feel within you very strongly that you're not, your mind's gonna be like, yeah, you keep on saying this, but you're full of shit. That's why we frame it as a question, so then the mind cannot refuse it. You will have to go and find us evidence. And this is something that you do not one day, not 2 days, not 3 days, years, every year. You do it daily, every single day. Until it gets so deeply ingrained that you no longer have any doubts if you're good enough or not.
Thanks, Martin.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you for this great question. And actually, the next thing we're actually going to look at is fundamental too. And that is crushing the good opinion of other people, or goop. Now, for example, in your case, Natalie, showing up on camera and doing Facebook Live, Instagram Live, whatever platform you choose to broadcast yourself live onto. The main thing that's holding you back first is that fear of not being good enough. But the second thing that's actually triggering that feeling of not being good enough is the good opinion of other people. Meaning that you are concerned about what people think about you. Now here's the thing. This is the biggest trick. Once you break through this fear because you realize how it works, it has no hold on you any longer because it's futile. I'll give you this analogy. In each and every one of our lives, me being the example right now, I am the star in my own movie called my life. Therefore, by default, you with Natalie can be at best supporting actors in my movie. And at worst, movie extras on my set of my movie. Well, this holds true in Natalie's world. In Natalie's life, she's the star of her own movie. Therefore, I can at best be a supporting actor. And maybe you, Archana, are a movie set extra. Same in your case. In your movie, you are the main star. You're the starlet. And me and Natalie are maybe supporting actors or maybe extras on set. And this is how every single human being views the world, or the world, the lens they view their world through. Every human being is more concerned about what you think about them than they are thinking about what about you. Most people don't bother even to give an opinion. Once you realize this, you have this dramatic relief, like this thing's been holding me back for so long because I'm always concerned about what people are thinking about me. Well, they're doing the exact thing. What are these other people thinking about me? That's their concern. They're not concerned about what they're thinking of you. They are not thinking of you. They're thinking about what someone else is thinking of them. Is this making sense?
Yes.
So don't swim in goop.
I think we tend to overestimate how much other people are thinking of us when they're actually thinking of us very little. As you say, everyone's focused on themselves.
Exactly. And then again, coming from a place of, again, not being focused too much on ourselves, but being focused on how we can be of service and add value and so on, makes it even, like, takes this concept even deeper, because then we're no longer thinking about us. We are coming from a very different place. Our focus, our intention is completely different. Because we're no longer there to impress people and show them how we are and who we are and so on. We're just there to be of service. And when we're coming with this intention, the way we come through is very different, because power comes to those in direct proportion to their willingness to serve. So every time you're coming to the world from a place of, I want to contribute, I want to give, I want to be of service, you're going to see that the energy you have, the power you have to do what you want to do is completely different than when you're coming from a place of, I want to impress people and show them how amazing I am and so on, because this is coming from a place of insecurity. If you have something to prove, if you need validation, it's coming from a place of insecurity. It's not coming from a place of you are very grounded in who you are. Because people that are, they don't need validation. They don't give a fuck about validation. Because the only opinion ultimately that matters in the world about you is your own. Because you live with yourself 24/7. And if you're nagging yourself, you're going to be nagging yourself 24/7. Well, if you hear a bad comment from somebody there or on the Facebook or whatever, you can delete it, you can mute it, whatever, right? But you cannot mute yourself. So this is fundamentally important to come from this place. And as I already mentioned, as we go through the different grades and we level up and maybe even go into from art school to art university, we can expect the lessons by default to get harder than before. So don't be surprised by this. Be open and allowing for the lessons to find you, because the lessons have a gift within them for you. Always coming from this place. Why is this happening for me? How is this serving me? How is it benefiting me? Maybe at the very moment when it's occurring, you are unable to see this, because as Steve Jobs said, you can only connect the dots going backwards. So meaning, maybe 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, 5 years down the road, you would see that an event that you thought was such a traumatic event actually was the best thing to happen in your life. That sets you on a different trajectory to life, to a better place, to a place that where you should be and you feel more at home than you felt before. The last thought I want to leave you with before I open for questions is believe in yourself. That's the most fundamental thing. The more you do and take actions and all the things are recommended from the perspective of going and stepping into your fears, the more you're going to be building up this belief and confidence within yourself. Because you got this. There is no such thing as failure. There is only feedback. And all you have to do, even if you failed at the last attempt, because now you started to set goals that you don't know the how of, goals that are greater than your capacity to plan out, you become the person who have or could have this goal and achieve this goal by trying new things, by always iterating, by taking shots, by taking chances, rather than playing it safe and living in your little comfort zone that chokes you up. And eventually, as I already said, you're not going to be able to escape the lessons. If you're not out there looking for the lessons, then the lessons will come and find you. However, when they do, because they don't like to do this, it's usually in very unpleasant way. So why cause yourself trauma when you can go out there and proactively step into your power and deliver your gifts and grow and expand? Go out there and give your gifts. Step into your fears. The greatness is omnipresent within us all. All we have to do again is to step into those fears, to realize how much of it is just psychological stuff. And if we know how to work with our psychology, none of this stuff exists. And every time you step into it, you lean into it, you see how it quickly dissipates. And you start to have all this validation, all this data that, yeah, that's true. It was just something, maybe I was using my imagination in the not most effective way in the circumstance by anticipating worst case scenario rather than focusing on best case scenario that could ever happen. So thank you again. Thank you for investing 2 hours of your time in yourself. This is already a great example and great sign that you're willing to commit and take action on the things we talked about today. Because ultimately it comes down to taking action on these things. Right? So I do want to see you guys taking action on it and kicking ass. Because I know you can and I know you will. All you have to do is step into it. And with that being said, do you guys have any other questions I can answer?
Thank you so much, Martin. It was very intense and a lot of learning.
I'm glad. There's going to be a recording, so again, feel free to watch it again. This is basically the heart of my work, the type of work I do and what I help my clients with, especially with extreme performance. Because every time you want to stretch what you think is possible, you have to overcome all these psychological limitations, because it's always on the psychological level where limitations live.
Yep. And I have a question. Like, I have gone through Lifebook online, and I have set all my goals, all my strategies, all my vision and my purpose. I know what to do on a daily basis right now. I'm still setting my goals and marking it every day. What is my progress? As you said, it should be very powerful. It should be fearless, and how the goal should be. Like, it is not effective. So how to find something that is more effective for me? Like, a year back, health and fitness was very tough, but now it has already been easy. I am doing it easily in my day-to-day life.
Okay, I see. Well, here's the thing. Now, there are different levels of goals, right? When we talk about daily goals, that's different from, let's say, our 5-year-long goals, right? That's when I was talking about setting goals that you don't know the how of. On a daily basis goals, we don't want to be setting like extreme goals. However, we want to be setting goals that are challenging us. Talking about uncertainty. But let me answer your question, Archana. So when it comes down to goals, again, on a daily basis or weekly basis, we want to be setting goals that are stretching us a little bit, but obviously goals that we know we can take action on and complete. When I was talking about having goals that you don't know the how of, I was referring to your yearly goals or 3-5 years down the road type of goals. On a daily basis, you want to have goals, obviously, that are a lot more chunkable down, right? And again, it's coming though, those daily goals, since you're familiar with the life book process, I don't know how you structure your goals, but did you work backwards from your vision?
Yeah, I am going through that. Yeah, 5 years, 1 year, and then monthly.
Okay. So I just wanted to clarify that this was the case because not many people actually set their goals in this perspective, going backwards, right? So once you do so, yeah, it's coming from this perspective, and then again, taking the obvious daily step right now, whatever is obvious to you or whatever is required. Maybe if your goal is to become very athletic or whatever, maybe it's going to the gym and working out for 30 minutes. Right? Or if it is to eat healthier, maybe cooking something healthier or making a better food choice every day or whatever it is, right? So on a daily basis, this is very different. We're not talking about daily basis goals. We're talking about the end results, because at the end of the day, the steps we're going to take to get to our destinations are not important. The goal is to get to the destination. How do we gonna veer our way around? Because life is not a straight line dash from A to B. Just like all rivers, and you look on the globe, they all curve and snake their way around. Whatever steps needs to be taken. However, it's always good to stretch ourselves even in those steps, meaning that, let's say if you go to the gym, I'll just use this example. To work out, instead of you committed to working out for 30 minutes on maybe your chest or your legs, so whatever it is, or just stretching and so on. As soon as it's 29 minutes and 50 seconds, you're already out the door, right? Maybe you gotta do a few more extra reps. Just when you feel like you cannot longer anymore, you just do one more. All right, you just stretch yourself a little bit.
Totally got it. Thanks, Martin.
What about you, Natalie? Do you have any questions at this point?
No, not questions, just a lot of insights. It's occurring to me that I was applying some of the methods that you talked about tonight in certain areas of my life, but it didn't occur to me to try them in other areas. So yeah, a lot of insights tonight, a lot of things to think about. Yeah, it was all very helpful. But so you mentioned that you shared your YouTube channel. So on your YouTube channel, you have other videos that you do similar along these lines?
Yeah. No, I have a recording of all the webinars I've been holding on up to this point.
Okay.
And also lessons, pre-recording lessons, all of the webinars, upcoming and prior. So you can also watch those. There's a lot of value in them as well. So I have all the videos. I'll share the links with you here in the chat right now, so you guys can bookmark them and find this recording later on, because again, it's always important to listen first and be very present, and then come back to it from next day or so on, or even a week later, just to see how you're going to hear it second time around. Because there's going to be a shift. Every time you have these insights and shifts, something's happening. It takes time for, let's say, for the rewiring to start taking place. So let me actually share those links with you as we speak. And first, I wanted to share with you actually that I'm launching very soon, maybe in a month from now, online mentorship and coaching community that's going to be open to a handful of people for a monthly subscription, where on a weekly basis, we're going to be doing some very powerful coaching and also learning new techniques and methods to grow, expand, and become a better version of ourselves in the most effective way. So 1 week will be dedicated to coaching. The other week will be dedicated to training and learning a new method, technique, something, again, highly practical that you can take tomorrow in life and apply. Because with me, it's always about how can we practically apply this in life. Theory does not cover the price of admission to higher states of consciousness. So if this is something you're interested, I would definitely share more information about it. And I'm also extending to you a complimentary 1-hour coaching session. I'm going to share the link with you in the chat right now. If you're interested, feel free to see what my availability is and book your coaching session. I'd love to serve you powerfully and tell you more about the coaching community. So let me post this link first in the chat. I also have an amazing online 5-day holistic transformation challenge that you're welcome to sign up for. It's complimentary, and there's a lot of actual powerful exercises in it that I do recommend that you go through, because the why exercise is like, there's a whole exercise on finding your why and so on. So I definitely recommend you see that these tools can be of any value to you, you sign up and you get all the PDF exercises and go through them, because there's a lot of value in them if you do the work. So let me post this as well. So that would be the challenge. Now here is the link to my YouTube. So bookmark it and you'll find all the recordings from previous webinars, lessons, and videos I've posted before. And this one probably will be uploaded in a couple of days or so, because it takes some time to process the videos and so on. Also, the next point I wanted to make is, I also, again, this videos, but I also have upcoming webinars. So I still have for this month, I think 4 more for this month, and then they'll restart next month. So I do 12 different webinars, 3 each every week.
Wow.
So you're welcome to look at the schedule. And again, there's going to be lessons in the ones that I've already hosted. Even the recording of the actual webinar is on, so you can watch the lesson, you can watch the webinar recording and so on, and then very welcome to join us as well. So let me share the link to all of the events actually, so you can see the full schedule. Because I normally host them as workshops live in person, but ever since the circumstances, this has not been a possibility. So I've transitioned into hosting them as webinars, but then this is great too, because it has allowed me to reach folks like you, Natalie, in Canada. And what about your channel? Where do you call home, or where are you tuning in from?
California.
California. Okay, so you're not that far away. I'm in California myself, in Santa Monica.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I've posted all the links here in the chat box. Feel free to save them, bookmark them. And I'm truly grateful again for you guys taking the time to invest in yourself. And I really, really encourage you to go and test out what I share with you tomorrow. Like, don't hold on to it. Get into doing it. Like, try it out, see what the results are, and then share with others if it's powerful. I know there was so many things I share with you. I just literally host you down with all this stuff. So there's a lot of things there, but when it comes down to adding value, that's something I always enjoy. And coming from this place of abundance, that we live in a universe filled with abundance, and there's always so much to go around. You know, you give and something finds you in return always. So go out there, give your gifts, and if you don't have any other questions for me and you were able to save the links, I will say I'll see you on the next webinar. It was great to have you. Thank you for allowing me to serve you. I love you. Sending you blessings, and go out there and kick ass.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Martin. It was really intense and awesome. I learned a lot. Thanks for you, and I'm very grateful to come to this meeting.
I'm glad that you came. I'm glad that you did.
And likewise.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Martin. Thanks for everything.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you both.